I have to be honest with you, I almost threw my phone across the room this morning.
Whoa. That's a violent start to the day. What did the phone do to you?
It was just the news feed. The
Uh,
the sheer unrelenting volume of it. I'm scrolling, right?
hmm.
And it's just catastrophic wildfire in California, swipe. Corruption scandal in DC, swipe. Inflation numbers are up again, swipe. It felt like an avalanche.
The doom scroll. We've all been there. It really does feel like the world is leaking from a dozen different holes at once.
Exactly. And usually my brain tries to categorize it. I think, okay, we need better forest management for the fires.
Right.
We need campaign finance reform for the corruption. We need a new Fed chair for the economy. I put them in these nice little silos.
Separate problems, separate solutions. Makes sense.
Right. But then I listened to this message you sent over by Pastor Charles Lawson, the 3 big problems with planet Earth, and he just completely wrecked my filing system.
He does that.
He basically argues that we don't have a million little problems. We have 3. 3 massive root problems that explain, well, everything.
It really is a theory of everything for all the chaos we see. And I'll be honest, when I first dug into this, it wasn't exactly comforting. He's not offering a 5 steps to a better life plan here.
No, it is definitely not a self-help talk.
But it is incredibly grounding. It's a reality check. He sort of steps back and looks at the spiritual architecture of why the world is so broken.
And he breaks it down into 3 realms: the physical, the moral, and the systemic.
And once you see it through that lens, you really can't unsee it.
So let's dive into that first one, the physical realm. He starts right at the beginning, Genesis, with the ground beneath our feet.
Specifically, the curse. I mean, we all know the story of Adam and Eve, but Lawson just zooms right in on the biological consequences of that moment. God says, "Cursed is the ground for thy sake."
And this is where he dropped a concept that I had to rewind like 3 times because it sounded so strange. He talks about eating the ground.
It does sound odd, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm picturing someone literally eating dirt, but that's not what he means at all.
No, he's talking about the food chain. Think about it biologically.
Right.
Everything we eat comes from the soil.
Whether it's a salad, a piece of bread, or a steak.
Right, because the cow ate the grass that grew in the dirt.
Gotcha.
And Lawson's point is that because the ground itself is cursed, it's in a state of decay, of entropy. When we eat from it, we are physically consuming that curse. We're literally metabolizing death.
So we aren't just living on a broken planet, we are building our bodies out of broken materials.
We are ingesting the consequences of rebellion. He quotes that verse, "In sorrow shalt thou eat of it." It's this profound connection that our very sustenance is tied to a system of death. You eat to live, but what you're eating is drawn from a dying earth, which is why our bodies eventually break down.
Wow. That is heavy. It really changes how you look at a grocery store. But he takes it even further. He says because of this, trying to turn Earth into a paradise is a fool's errand.
A fool's paradise, yeah. This is where he pushes back against the modern environmental hope. We look at a sunset, a mountain range, and think, oh, Mother Earth is so nurturing.
Right.
Lawson just flips that. He says, look closer. The Earth is hostile.
He brought receipts for that, too. He lists the fires in California, the flooding in the Mississippi Delta, earthquakes in China.
He says the Earth is quaking, burning, and shaking. It's convulsing.
It almost sounds like he was describing a living thing that's sick.
That's actually a very biblical concept, creation groaning for redemption. Lawson's argument is that this planet is a sinking ship. You can polish the brass rails, rearrange the deck chairs, you can pass all the legislation you want.
But you can't lift a curse that God has placed.
Exactly. He's very clear that curse isn't lifted until Revelation 22, when there is a new earth.
Which is a tough pill to swallow if you're putting all your hope in, saving this planet.
It is. But it's also kind of liberating.
Oh.
It frees you from the anxiety of trying to fix something that is ultimately destined to be replaced.
Okay, so problem 1. The stage we're acting on is rotting. That brings us to problem 2, which is the actors themselves, the moral realm.
The problem of the heart, yeah.
He goes to Genesis 6 for this. Every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. That was before the flood. We're civilized now, right? We have democracy and iPhones.
Polite society.
Yeah. Are we really only evil continually?
Lawson would argue that the technology has changed, but the software running in the human heart hasn't. We just have more efficient ways to express that evil. And this is where he pivoted to the space travel, which I thought was just fascinating.
Oh, the Mars obsession.
Right. We see billionaires and governments obsessed with becoming a multiplanetary species. It's framed as the ultimate survival strategy for humanity. If we wreck Earth, we just need a backup drive.
But Lawson's take is that it's not going to happen.
He calls it a quarantine.
A quarantine? That sounds like a sci-fi movie plot.
It really does. But his argument is that the universe is vast, but God has confined humanity to this one rock. Why? Because we are carriers of a contagion.
A virus of sin.
The virus of sin. If we went to Mars, we wouldn't just bring our science, we'd bring our greed, our wars, our corruption. We'd just export it to the rest of the galaxy.
So God is keeping the infection contained.
That's his view. You can build the biggest rocket you want, but you can't fly away from your own nature. It really recontextualizes the whole space race, doesn't it? It's less about exploration and more about escapism.
We're trying to run away from a home we've trashed, but we're the ones who trash it.
Exactly. And speaking of trashing things, he uses some incredibly visceral language to describe our culture here on Earth. He calls it raw sewage.
He does not mince words. He describes the modern entertainment industry, movies, TV, the internet, as a pipeline. And we've willingly hooked that pipeline right into our living rooms.
It's that old analogy, the frog in the boiling water.
Yeah.
You don't realize you're sitting in sewage
Yeah.
because the temperature just went up so slowly.
And he points out it's not just passive consumption. This is the imagination part of that Genesis verse. He says people plan sin. They use their God-given creativity to invent new ways to be wicked. And he points directly to the internet as a tool that has just democratized access to depravity.
He also touches on national identities, which was interesting.
Yeah.
He mentions how different cultures have their specific vices, France and wine, Germany and beer.
But for the U.S., he labels us with hedonism.
The pursuit of pleasure as the highest good. If it feels good, do it. Lawson argues that this lack of restraint is the death knell of a society. And this all explains his definition of heaven.
Yeah, that was different. Usually you hear about the streets of gold or the pearly gates. The bling.
The bling, right. But Lawson says the real joy of heaven isn't the architecture. It's the quarantine being lifted. It's the absence of the infection, a place where the sewage finally stops flowing.
That's a powerful thought. Okay, so we've got a cursed ground. That's the environment. We've got a sinful heart. That's the individual. That's a double whammy. But he says there's a third layer.
And this is where things get really systemic.
This is the God of this world concept from 2 Corinthians 4.4. The idea that there's a spiritual intelligence, Satan actively manipulating global systems.
Politics, economics, culture.
It's the idea that the chaos isn't random, it's organized. And the engine running this whole machine, greed.
And he gets really specific here about the economy. He argues that the financial pressure people feel, the price of gas, the price of milk, it isn't just invisible market forces.
Not just supply and demand.
No, he calls it manipulation. He talks about speculators and billionaires who are hoarding wealth. He quotes that famous line from the billionaire who was asked, "How much is enough?"
And he said, just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more. That's the motto of the world system. But Lawson takes it a step further. He connects this greed directly to blood.
The war machine.
Yeah. This was probably the most controversial part of his analysis, but also the most biting. He looks at modern history, specifically World War II with Japan and the Iraq War, and he just strips away all the political narratives, he says. It's about oil.
He had that line. So soccer moms can drive their SUVs.
It stings, doesn't it?
It does. It feels offensive at first. Like, hey, I'm just trying to get the kids to practice. But he's implicating us. All of us.
That's the point. He's saying that the American lifestyle of convenience, the suburbs, the big cars, the cheap goods, it's all subsidized by military force ensuring the oil keeps flowing. We are part of the system. The God of this world uses our desire for comfort to drive global conflict.
And it's not just about resources. Lawson sees a deliberate move toward a one-world government. This is where he started talking about the Amero. Now, help me out here. I remember hearing about this years ago, but isn't that just a conspiracy theory?
Well, it's a theory that's been around, but Lawson fits it into a biblical framework. The idea is a North American Union merging the economies of the U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
Kind of like the European Union and the Euro?
Exactly. And the spiritual significance for him is all about sovereignty. He argues that if you want to build a global government, which biblically is the prerequisite for the Antichrist's rule, you first have to break down the individual nations.
You can't have a strong, independent America and a one-world government at the same time.
They're mutually exclusive. So to build the big system, you have to dissolve the smaller systems. You dilute their borders, their currencies, and, he argues, even their languages.
He was very specific about the language issue, and I want to clarify this because it could sound like he's just being xenophobic, but that wasn't his point, was it?
No, it wasn't about hating other languages. It was about cohesion. He argues that a shared language is the glue of a national identity. He sees the push for multilingualism in government official documents in every language, no unified standard, as a strategy to fracture that identity.
It's like the Tower of Babel again.
Right. If you can't talk to your neighbor, you don't use the same money, you don't respect the same borders, you aren't really a nation anymore. You're just a confused population ready to be managed by a global superstate.
And managed is the polite word. This leads right into his defense of the Constitution. He doesn't just see it as a legal document, he sees it as a spiritual barrier.
He calls it the restrainer. He runs through the Bill of Rights like a checklist of obstacles in the Antichrist's way. Take the First Amendment, freedom of speech and religion. He contrasts that with hate speech laws in places like Canada.
Right, where pastors have been fined or arrested for preaching certain parts of the Bible that the government deems offensive.
Exactly. Lawson's warning is that this erosion is coming here. If you can silence the church, you remove the warning system. Then he hits the Second Amendment.
And he's not talking about sports shooting.
Not at all. He frames it strictly through the lens of history and tyranny. He mentions Hitler, Stalin, Mao. What was the first thing they did?
Disarm the populace.
Disarm the populace. He argues the Second Amendment isn't about hobbies, it's about self-defense as a check against totalitarianism, the final failsafe. And then the Fourth Amendment, privacy.
This is where he went after the Patriot Act.
Oh yeah, he was scathing on this. He argues that in the name of safety fighting terrorism, we just handed over the keys to our private lives. No court orders needed for surveillance, tracking finances. He just says, Big Brother is watching you.
And the scary part is we let it happen because we were afraid.
Fear is the tool. And Lawson connects this directly to Revelation 13. The Antichrist needs a system where he can track every transaction, the mark of the beast. You can't buy or sell without it.
So his point is that the surveillance cameras, the data tracking, the digital currencies, we're building the cage for ourselves.
We're laying the fiber optic cables for the end times. The infrastructure for total control is being built right now under the guise of convenience and security.
Okay, so let's just recap because my blood pressure is rising again.
I get it.
The ground is fighting us. Our hearts are pumping out sewage. And the global systems are rigging the game for a demonic dictator.
When you put it that way, it does sound hopeless.
It feels incredibly overwhelming. It makes you want to just go live in a bunker. But he doesn't end there, does he? He pivots to what we should actually do.
And I really appreciated this balance. He doesn't say, go hide. He says, wake up.
Civic vigilance, I think you could call it.
Yes. Being informed is the first step. Don't just be lulled to sleep by the entertainment pipeline. Understand what laws like the Patriot Act actually do. Understand why the dollar is losing value.
He's very patriotic. He mentions his military service, but he draws a sharp line between fighting for your country and putting your hope in it.
That's the key distinction. He encourages engagement vote for representatives who fight for energy independence, for example. He brought up drilling in Alaska or the Gulf. His logic is, let's stop funding our enemies by buying their oil. Let's be strong.
So fight the decay. Delay the rot, but don't expect to cure it.
Precisely. He says if the world feels broken, it's because it is broken. We aren't waiting for a new president to fix the curse. We are waiting for the second coming.
He used an image there that gave me chills. He said, Christ isn't coming back to negotiate.
A rod of iron. It's from the Psalms in Revelation. It's an image of absolute non-negotiable authority. Lawson's point is that the chaos, the greed, the wars, the soccer mom oil economy, it only stops when the true king returns to physically reign.
He's not coming to run a democracy.
No, he's coming to establish a kingdom. And for Lawson, that is the ultimate stress relief. It frees you from the anxiety of the 24-hour news cycle. When you see the corruption, you don't panic. You say, okay, this is the cursed system doing what it does, but the fix is coming from the sky, not the swamp.
It really does connect the dots. When you see the fires, that's the cursed ground. When you see the moral collapse, that's the sinful heart. When you see the surveillance state,
that's the system. And when you see it that way, you stop being surprised by the evil. You stop clutching your pearls and start looking up.
So for the listener on their commute right now or washing dishes, what's the takeaway? How do we live this out?
I think it's vigilance combined with peace. Don't just consume the news. Analyze it through this spiritual lens. Ask yourself, Is this policy moving us toward centralization and control?
And check your own heart, too. Are you plugged into that sewage pipe? Are you letting the world's entertainment shape your imagination?
It's a call to be in the world but not of it, to live wholly in a hostile environment.
And finally, that hope, right? No matter how dark the headlines get, the script is already written. The curse gets lifted.
Revelation 21, a new earth, no more sorrow, no more pain, and no more curse. That is the finish line.
And that is the best news we could ask for. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me. It was heavy, but I think we needed it to clear the fog.
Sometimes you have to look at the darkness to really appreciate the light.
Couldn't have said it better. Keep looking up, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.